Hello and welcome to the Breakthrough and Thrive Summit, where you have the opportunity to ignite your power, take charge of your healing, and create your happiness after experiencing sexual abuse and trauma. I am your host, JamieLynn, and I bring a warm welcome to Linda Ann. Thank you, Linda, for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is something that's close to my heart.
Well, thank you. And one of the first questions I always ask is, how did you get to the position that you are? But also tell us what it is that you do, please.
Okay, well, it's kind of an evolution. Right now, I have come into being a vision strategist, and I work especially with businesswomen to help them grow their business, to align their heart with their vision, and program their vision for success. And I do this through creating a strategic plan. I can say it.
Right.
And yeah, so that they get an empowered mindset and a consistent focus. Therefore, they're able to achieve their vision of success. So this is what I'm doing now. However, it evolved from my 30 years as a hypnotherapist.
Wow. Very.
And yeah, in my practice, I've worked with a lot of sexual abuse survivors. And some of them have come to me specifically to work on that, to work on the feelings of guilt, of self-esteem and so forth. And others have come to me for other reasons, but we discovered as we were moving through whatever goal they were working on, it might be smoking, it might be weight management, it might be stress reduction, it might be success programming. Whatever goal they were working on, we found out that self-esteem was a huge part of it. So we really a lot of times we move into working on their self-esteem in addition to whatever goal that they were dealing with. So that's kind of how I came into this.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
self-esteem and working with sexual abuse survivors is really, really close to my heart.
Yeah, I can hear it and feel it in your energy. And thank you for all the work that you've done and all the women that you've been backing, because I'm pretty sure, and you can answer this for me probably, that a lot of your entrepreneurs are dealing with the same sort of things. And this still, like, no matter where you are in your stage of development or your healing journey, whichever you'd like to call it, that tends to creep back in on you when you're facing new things, right?
Absolutely. So in my experience, self-esteem, especially for women, for men, but especially for women, is at the core of every issue that they have. And so whenever there's like you said, moving into something new, it kind of puts us back into our feelings of unworthiness, undeservedness, am I worth it, and all of that, for sure.
Well, I gotta say that, like, most of the time, people don't tell the backside of the story of how they grow their business, and I'm an open book. And the worthiness conversation, if we look back at the very first Breakthrough and Thrive Summit, this is considered number 4. I was like, well, thank you for the applause. Am I worthy of talking to these people? It was a simple question of that. Am I worthy of being listened to in this platform? And so I had to work through that to get to the powerful number 4, right? And the powerful
Exactly.
2 and 3. So we are sort of establishing the importance of self-esteem and how it can grow. But what does self-esteem have to do with accomplishing the goals?
Well, a lot of people, especially sexual abuse survivors, trauma survivors, or people who come from dysfunctional homes, become high achievers. And they actually seek their self-esteem from outside accomplishments. But it doesn't work that way. What happens is that they develop an imposter syndrome, and they think that they're not worthy of it. They doubt their accomplishments are due to their abilities, and they fear they're going to be found out. And so that kind of leads into an aggravation of the low self-esteem, feelings of unworthiness, and then leads into unhealthy habits such as smoking, overeating, drugs, alcohol, self-harm, making bad decisions, bad relationships. I mean, you can go on and on. So those things will all undermine any kind of goals you try to accomplish, because you're always kind of having the foot on the gas and the foot on the brake at the same time. So with when you have self-esteem, you are able to believe in yourself. You're able to believe that what you do matters. You're able to stand up for yourself. Can I tell a little story here?
Oh, please do. And I have one
Personal
when you're
story?
finished. Yeah.
Excuse me?
And please do. And I have one when you're finished.
Good. Okay. Growing up, I was a people pleaser. Now, full disclosure, I have not had any kind of abuse in my background, but I grew up as a people pleaser. And at one time I was with a group in an organization that the group of us had really worked hard to kind of grow it. And then we had a new member come in who was determined that she was going to bring her vision in and that we were going to do things her way. Only problem is we had tried doing things the way that she wanted us to do them. And nobody was speaking up. Nobody was standing up to her. Nobody was saying no. Nobody was explaining that we'd already tried those things. And she was just trying to kind of bully her way through. And I kind of took a deep breath and I thought, well, I'm going to alienate everybody here, but we've spent way too much time and energy building to where we are now to have to go back. So I stood up to her. And at the end of the meeting, after she had left, I had people coming up to me and I thought, oh, okay, here we go. And everybody came up to me and thanked me profusely for standing up to her. I was shocked. So to me, again, learning to stand up to and for people. I've always been able to stand up for other people, but standing up for myself has always been difficult. So learning to stand up for yourself.
Yeah. And I gotta say, the first time, you gotta rip it off like a Band-Aid. You have to have bold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was terrified for my story, but I had to be bold. And I knew I had to be. Yeah. And that was the first tool. And then after that, the boldness and the feeling and the emotion that comes with that, it started to melt away because I started to see who I am.
Mm-hmm. So and who you could be. Yeah. Exactly. Going into who you were. Yeah.
Yeah, but it takes those baby steps. Like, I mean, look at a baby when they first start walking. They're probably excited and terrified at the same time. Like, I get to go get that toy, but I don't know if I can stay on my feet.
And they fall down and then they get back up again.
Yes, and then keep going. So my story, it's kind of a blanket statement, really, because it happened a few times. So my boldness was in when I went to go and tell that I had been sexually abused. And then from that, my stomach was turning. I get blotchy, like my shortness of breath. Like, I swear, I think at a moment I was going to pass out. Like, it was crazy. Mm-hmm. And then it took me a few years, because it was so huge. It took me a few years to realize what I did. And it actually took my offender, who's going to be on the summit, to say that I am so strong. It was so cool that he said it, and it mattered to me.
Oh God, yes.
And he admired that strength. So I held on to that, and I found myself in another situation where there was a person in my life that I didn't want around my children. Like, not that they couldn't ever see them, but like, don't be alone with my kids. Mm-hmm. And with this particular person, I have to remind them, because they've had some brain injury and stuff. So I have to have patience with them. And just, so what I get out of it is the practice of being bold and confident on more than one occasion. Mm-hmm. And each time I've learned to do it a little softer. And mm-hmm. What I found was the faster you say it, the easier it is. When you let it drag out, like with your group, like it dragged out for so long, and you all probably were getting headaches and were like, this is hard, but when you cut it right then and there, it works a little faster. So I was like, you know what? No. Oh, okay. She got upset, of course, but then it was done. So it seems to me through both of our experiences, at first, when you're testing this out, it takes some time. It takes
Mm-hmm.
some acceptance that and willingness that this is going to be, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, it does. It sometimes it kind of takes some time to kind of build up that momentum to finally speak out and do it. And that's one of the things that's really important about self-esteem, is being able to believe in yourself enough to, this sounds weird, but gird your loins to
Mm-hmm.
actually do it. Go pull everything in,
Mm-hmm.
strong enough to blurt it out.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another thing about self-esteem for achieving goals is persistence. I mean, so many people who don't have self-esteem will, as they're looking towards a goal, they'll see, oh, it's getting hard, so they quit. Or what if I do achieve it and somebody criticizes me for it? So they quit. What if I achieve it and I get more visible and I'll get more criticism? So they quit. So persistence and being able to support yourself, taking those steps, that's why self-esteem is so necessary to being able to achieve your goals and towards success, because you are worthy of being here. You deserve success because you were born for it. I mean, you were born to be successful.
Yeah. So I'm hearing like willingness and support needed. So,
Mm-hmm.
You're a coach, you were a therapist, you support, you're the cheerleader. And the other thing that I'm hearing too is like, and some of us, we don't stop completely, but we get blocked. Like the wall just gets put up in front of us. And it's like, oh, I can't get through that wall. So that's where the coach, the therapist, the
Mm-hmm.
tools, all those things can help you work past that. Your best friend, you
Mm-hmm.
might get a spark of an idea or be re-inspired and continue. And when you don't allow the block, your self-esteem grows.
Exactly. And being able to perceive the block as kind of doing a mind shift, that the block isn't there to stop you. It's there for you to learn from. There's something there extra that you need to learn, you need to understand, some knowledge you need, or it's holding you back because you were going too fast and you need to consolidate what you have already learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where things like daydreaming and meditation and making sure you get
Mm-hmm.
enough sleep to allow that subconscious mind to sort out what just happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Another thing is journaling, being able to journal about it.
Yeah, definitely. Or some people find videoing, video diary. It doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
have to publish it anywhere,
No.
but you're just recording your thoughts. You don't have to ever listen
Mm-hmm.
to it again, but it's getting it out of
Out
you.
of here. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And there is a
Because when you do that, your brain, your subconscious is actually reprocessing the information. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I was just going to add to the journaling idea. If we look back at a previous speaker, Scott Oscar, he talks about, or at least we did in conversation, the act of being physical
Mm-hmm.
with the writing so don't worry about your spelling. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about how it looks, because you're just doing this physical act of getting it out.
One of my teachers, because I learned about this technique when I was in writing classes, and it's essentially you what you're doing is you're following your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're following your mind, in the middle of a sentence, your mind may leap to another topic. You just leave that sentence and you go on to the next topic, because what you're doing is you're giving your subconscious mind the voice
Mm-hmm.
to talk to you.
And the subconscious mind doesn't work logically.
No,
I've never
absolutely not.
found it to work logically.
No, they're two different. The conscious mind works logically. The subconscious mind does not. That's not its role. So yeah, no.
Yeah, and that happens all the time in my journaling. In fact, my offender used to read everything I wrote because that was like a bonding thing. And I'm going to call him by his name. I'm so used to not saying his name, but now he's on here, so I can. Rob used to read all my stuff just because I'd like, can someone pay attention to me? And he would.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, your thoughts are all over the place. And I thought at the time, that was a bad thing because he couldn't understand what he was reading. But in reality, it wasn't for him. It wasn't even for me. It was just my mind,
Yeah,
unfolding. That's kind of
exactly.
funny.
Exactly. And journaling teaches self-trust. It really
Yeah.
does. And Emerson said self-trust is the first ingredient of success.
Oh my gosh, yes. The trust in knowing and following your intuition, the trust in following
Mhm,
your knowing of who you are, trusting
mhm,
yourself inside of parenting or your relationships, or, you know,
mhm.
I didn't do that for so long, and I was nervous all the time. It was
Yeah.
horrible. And I'm so glad I'm not anymore, because it grants so much freedom. I think self-esteem grants freedom.
It does. It absolutely does.
That should be a t-shirt. So, but can we define self-esteem, like for you? What does self-esteem mean?
Well, I tend to agree with Wayne Dyer that self-esteem is not getting other people's approval, because if you're doing that, it's other esteem. Self-esteem comes from within. It can be built, but not if you are being reflected in someone else's eyes. It has to come from within. So many of my clients, I can't tell you, who came in to see me and said, I just don't feel like I'm enough.
Yeah.
And I heard that that same phrase from so many people. And that's the whole thing, is that self-esteem really is when you feel enough, when you feel worthy, when you feel appropriate as a person, when you value yourself, when you respect yourself, you respect your decisions. And then when you make choices that are better for you, that are good for you. For instance, instead of having that piece of cake, having an apple. I mean, it's a hard decision, and yes, you really, really, really want that cake, but you're making a decision that is better for you. So self-esteem is taking care of your well-beings. And kind of going on this again, another piece of it is having boundaries. You know what boundaries are. A lot of my clients, when they first came to see me, did not, I had to explain to them what a boundary was.
Well,
And that to me was just amazing.
and that was one of the biggest questions that I had in the development of my relationship with Rob.
Mm-hmm,
Are you sure that this is a safe thing? And in any way they asked it, they were basically asking me, do I understand my boundaries? Am
mm-hmm,
I going to get myself like trapped in bed with him again? Um, no, because I know who I am. I know what
mm-hmm,
he stands for. I know what I stand for, and
mm-hmm,
what our intention is for the world. And for anyone else, you have to ask yourself, like, for example, if I walked into a room with Rob and we were cooking dinner, and let's say, for example, he wants spicy food and I don't, but I go with him and eat the spicy food, I've just allowed him to step over what I want.
mm-hmm,
So even in the minor conversations, I have to learn to be completely outspoken and saying, hey, I don't want this.
mm-hmm.
And if I can do that with my offender, I can do that and should do that, and now responsible to do that everywhere in my life.
Exactly. And boundaries also have to do with, if I set a boundary and say, don't go over this limit, don't cross this line in the sand, and you do, there are going to be consequences, and these are the consequences.
Yeah.
And then being willing and having the strength to follow through with those consequences, because we always are treating other people how to treat us. We're training them how to treat us,
Yeah. And
and boundaries are there for that.
I had a conversation with someone where I think I got kind of went too deep inside of my thought about a past conversation, and it triggered her.
Mm.
And she looks at, like, so close to the computer. I swear if we were in person, she would have been breathing on me. She's like, if you ever talk about this again, it's fine right now, but if you ever talk about this again, we're never working together again or talking again. And I
Ouch.
took, yeah, it hurt. It definitely hurt. But when I looked back, because I'm a responsible person inside of
Mm-hmm.
transformation and self-betterment, I was looking at not for myself, because I had to get past that pain level, of course, and acknowledge that for myself. But when I looked for her, she had immense fear to be able to say it like that. And
Yeah.
she had to be bold to be able to say it like that. And
Hmm.
she probably felt if she didn't say it harshly, it wouldn't have stuck with me and I would have forgotten it.
Hmm.
In that case, I look at the relationship this way. We may be getting along right now and today, we may be thinking together today, but we may or may not in the future. And so I'm really careful, like how people talk to me. If they're harsh and they're scared,
Hmm.
how can I be of service? If they're not willing to look at that, I tend to back away from them.
Hmm.
And knowing that, that's another boundary, knowing who you want in your life to create your life.
Exactly. There are people that I've been close to that then started to change and then started to treat me not so well,
Mm-hmm.
and had to. It would get to a point I would try to shift the conversation or shift the way that they were doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but eventually, if I finally got to the point of going, this is not going to change,
Yeah.
no matter how much I might feel towards them, how much I might care, it's time for me to shut the door, because it's not going to do me any good and it's not going to do them any good if I continue to allow this.
Right. And it's not to say that you're in a, like, for instance, the person I was talking to around my kids, I'm not
Hmm.
going to not go to a family event because that person is there. I did for a time because I
Hmm.
wasn't ready. Um, but going further, that's, that doesn't work for me.
Hmm.
So it's just limiting the conversation then, or not having one, or, you letting go of having to be right,
Hmm.
except for the area of you're not going to be alone with my kids. I'm
Hmm.
just going to let that person do what they're going to do, say what they're going to say, check in with myself later, choose
Hmm.
to go numb for a minute, so that you can enjoy the weekend or the event or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And knowing yourself, having that self-esteem and that self-worth, you can do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because when you realize that it's not directed towards you, it really has very little to do with you. It has to do with them and their issues.
yep. Yeah. And then when you realize that, it's like freedom again. It's a
Yeah.
whole new ball of freedom. So how is it that we can continue? Because now
Mhm.
we've been talking about looking at the practice of, but how do we continue to improve the self-esteem and the feeling of self-worth?
Well, there's so many things. Well, life treats us the way we treat ourselves, right? So one way is to treat ourselves as if we're our very best friend. So however you would treat your best friend, what you would tell your best friend, that's one of the things that you can do for yourself, is to treat yourself as your best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the things that I learned um, some time ago was learning to say no um, to inappropriate demands and being taken advantage of, and realize that you don't have to justify. You don't have to you don't have to explain. No is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the times when I learned, can I tell a little story about that too?
Oh, please do.
Okay. I was in doing some articles for publicity for a group I belonged with, and I was so over involved with several things that I was doing that I had to cut some things out because my health was starting to suffer. And this was one of the things that I knew I just needed to cut out, at least temporarily. And I went to the person I was working with, who was in charge, and she started pleading with me. She said, if you don't write these articles, our group is going to fold. We're just not going to be able to continue. There's nobody else to do it. And if it hadn't been for my health, I would have gone ahead and done it. But like I said, it was starting to crater. So I went ahead and said no. And I learned another valuable tool. 3 other people stepped into my shoes to write those articles. So learning that saying no does not mean that it's no forever, but it's when you're saying no to other people or to inappropriate demands, you're saying yes to yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you were working through that process, did the people pleaser self come back into it at all? Like,
It
did you?
tried to, like I said, it would have if it hadn't been for my health,
Yeah.
because it had gotten to be a bottom line that I was catching everything that was going around the area. I was sick all the time. I was losing sleep. And
So,
if it hadn't been for that, I would have stepped into the people pleaser. Yeah.
so that was a blessing, actually,
Hmm.
a big lesson,
It
because,
was huge.
and we don't have to let ourselves get that far. Just,
Exactly. Yeah. So once I learned that, more and more, I learned to say no to demands. And one of the ways you can start doing this for yourself is, um, when do you feel uncomfortable about doing something? When do you really not want to? When do you feel resentful about doing something? That's when you probably that no is probably a better answer than yes.
yeah, yeah, it definitely. This is one that, as soon as this video is over, please take out a pen and paper and comment to yourself. Just journal.
Hmm.
Where have you felt like that and said yes? And then,
Hmm.
see, here's the thing. If you said yes and you had felt like that, that energy of resentment or anger or whatever would have gone into the journals. It goes into the making of the supper. It goes into the making of the event.
Hmm.
So if, like, you train people to be 100% heart backed in the work that they do, if you're not 100% heart backed in what you do, it's going to show. If you're not
Yeah.
authentic, if you're not willing to be honest, which is basically being authentic, it's going to show.
Hmm.
And when we say yes instead of what we mean by no, we're not being authentic, we're not telling the truth, we're not being honest.
Hmm.
We're faking it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then eventually you're going to lose friends, you're going to lose clients, you're going to lose your family. You know, it's just not who you are.
Like with me, I was losing my health.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
It's,
saying no is just really important. Another way is to live by your values.
can you
Another
say more about
strategy.
that?
This is huge, absolutely huge. And they're not always easy,
Yeah.
because your value may be, I want to be honest, but if I'm honest, I'm going to hurt this person's feelings, or there may be a consequence for it.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be kind of a push-pull there. But if you're able to live by your values, then you're going to feel good about yourself. And that's what self-esteem is.
I've got to share there. At some point in time, I questioned, being inauthentic about receiving Christmas presents. It's like, oh, thanks. I don't really need another hat, but gotcha. Or whatever the gift was.
Uh-huh.
And the consequence of my honesty is that I ended up looking ungrateful.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother-in-law and she's like, well, what is it that you actually want for Christmas? Because this is getting annoying. So I'm not surprised the past 2 years. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. She has surprised me. But then when I get exactly what I ask for, I'm not that surprised. So that's another consequence. So what it is that I've shifted my focus for is the time and the effort that
Mm-hmm.
has gone into the gift. And, you know, like, her reaction to my reaction is what matters,
Mm-hmm.
you
It's
know?
being appreciative. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
when you are appreciative, even though if you want to be honest, you're being honest in that.
yes. So you have to, it's like picking it apart. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, look at your phone. You've got the cover on it to protect the actual cover. Then you got the phone itself. And inside of there is all this stuff and these batteries. And then you have the case that you put it in. You take it all apart. Just look at these little things inside of that. That's where you can hold on to it. That's what you can be
Mm-hmm.
inspired and grateful. Like, how much stuff they pack inside of here. Like, being grateful for that. And that stuff inside of there is the representation of the heartfelt journey it is to go shopping, or even online shopping.
Mm-hmm.
and to give the gift card or whatever. It takes the time. It takes hard-earned money to get that. And that's where the authentic is. And then who knows, maybe you can find a purpose for that gift that you've received that you don't need or want or something like that. It makes someone else smile. But it took practice, and it's taken a couple of years to really look at that. And I was hiding behind, I just had a kid, leave me alone. No excuse. I was being a flat out bitch about it and not meaning to. So, and it points to something else, the acknowledgement of how you truly feel, or how you've been being, and then allowing others to go, oh, okay, you know what? I forgive you. Or I've done that before. I can see that. It creates a whole new opening for relationships.
It's open communication. It's
Yeah.
honest, open communication. So yeah, and open communication and accurate information is always vital.
It allows people to feel that they know you and that they've been heard.
Exactly.
Validation.
Yeah. And one other thing about another strategy is to challenge your own negative self-talk. I mean, this is so basic. I mean, you know this one.
Yes.
It's that when you feel, you tell yourself, well, that was stupid, I can't be doing that, is to dispute it. I mean, bring out the facts and dispute it. Literally, write it down and have a conversation between those two parts. The one that's saying this, and then the part of you that's going, no, that's not true. Even if you're not completely on the side of, no, that's not true, still work on that, work with that, because what you're doing is you're starting to stand up to your own inner critic.
Yeah. And eventually that voice gets quieter.
Because also it realizes it's being heard. Because it's just trying to help you as well. It's just the old voices from way back when that were trying to help you stay safe.
Yeah.
Now, if you dialogue with it instead of give into it or just tell it to shut up, what you're doing is you're acknowledging that, okay, yeah, I know you're trying to help me, but you're not doing it anymore, and this is what the truth of the situation.
So I have a program. It's called the Empowerment Program. And of course, I'm all about empowerment.
Me too.
So one of the assignments is giving that stuff a name, like a really silly name. And when I was first introduced to this tool, I named mine Dumbo. And it's like, this funny little elephant that's just going to say whatever it wants to say, right? And it's like, thanks for sharing, Dumbo. I don't need to. And another thing I learned to add to this is celebrating the wins. Like, I was so smart to put that where I put that. That was genius.
Yes.
Saying things like that. Like, do I believe I'm a genius? What is a genius? What does that look like? I'm going to make it up. I believe I'm a genius because I put that where I knew I was going to look.
Yeah. Acknowledging your wins. Yeah, absolutely. And appreciating yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a share I gave the other day for a friend of mine, that inside of this summit, we've been talking a lot about holding the emotional pain in the body. And I had that healing with Mark Hernandez. And after that healing, I haven't felt the anger pain in my shoulder. And it came up, not as big by any means. It was like a little stick in comparison to like the brick that was there.
Right.
But it came up and I'm like, wow, I haven't felt that in days. That's cool. I was still in pain, but I was like,
one of the things that I learned is it's like peeling an onion.
Yeah.
That you can peel, take a whole big piece off and you think, oh, it's all done. And then you find more pieces.
Yeah.
More layers.
But it gets small every time. Every energy healing, angel healing, Reiki that I've done for myself, positive talk, all of it works. But it's not a one and done. It's where are you now and how it works for you today.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
The strategy of practicing saying no, sometimes it's going to be super easy. No, I don't want chocolate ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather eat a strawberry. Saying no to my daughter, no homework today because it's the first warm day in Wisconsin. So she wants to go outside and get wet. I had a hard time saying no to that. So I willingly became the people pleaser. Go ahead, put on your swimsuit, go outside. You know, we'll do homework on a rainy day. We'll double up, whatever. So you can make a compromise and still feel good on it, but you want
Yes.
to make sure that it's a compromise inside of your values. Because I just mentioned integrity with the homework. So we're going to go back and we're going to have this expectation of it being a little heavier later, but we're going to get it done.
Yeah.
And you get to have fun right now. So it has to be a feel-good compromise, not one where
Exactly.
you're dragged through the mud.
And one that works for both people.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the responsibility then lies in us that we have to be responsible for voicing. Like with your coworkers in that project, nobody wanted to voice. And when you did, there was this wave of relief.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like having pasta tonight. I mean, it literally can be that small.
Mm-hmm.
And you're voicing it. And who knows, maybe when you get to the restaurant, you change your mind and you eat the pasta anyway. Like, I don't know.
But it doesn't matter because what you're doing is you're being authentic for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. So, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah. I've got 3 short tactics. List the compliments, all the compliments you've ever been given.
Oh, cool.
List your skills and abilities. Take 3 of them and then write how that you have used them in your life. And then list 5 attributes or qualities that you have and how they have been valuable for you.
Beautiful.
These are 3 things that somebody can do right here, right now, and that will start impacting their self-esteem like immediately.
Can you say those one more time and a little bit slower so everybody can
Okay. Okay. List all the compliments you've ever been given. And I would suggest you write them down because the physicality of actually physically doing it, you're actually incorporating that then. Then list your skills and abilities, all the ones that you have, and then take the top 3 and how you use them in your life now. Then list 5 attributes or qualities that you know that you have that are valuable to you. Then write a paragraph about how and why they're important and meaningful to you and how they express in your life now.
Awesome.
Okay?
That's just awesome. And it's so simple. Like, you can almost do this on a weekly basis. Like,
I encourage you to do it on a weekly basis. Absolutely. And make sure that you, when you write those down, that you look at them every day.
yeah.
Because it keeps reminding you of that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Like, get it in evidence of your genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because
exactly.
we spend so much time looking for that evidence of how we did things wrong or not quite perfect or that's not the way mom would do it. It's okay.
You are a unique individual and you deserve success as you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's been such an amazing conversation with you. I've had fun.
Thank you. So have I. Like I said, this is dear to my heart and I love talking about it with somebody else who also has it dear to her heart.
Definitely. I mean, you basically described the core of my program. And we need more of it. You know, I'm always encouraging, like, if you are ready, and you could just be talking to a friend of yours and you empower them. Empowerment, giving yourself permission to be who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do we get in contact with you if we want to connect?
Well, I have a YouTube channel and you can just do a search for linda-annstewart.com on YouTube. It probably, I don't know whether it comes up with a dash or not, but it should get you there. I have my website, which is linda-annstewart.com as well. And then I do have a 90-day vision strategy planning blueprint that I give away. And that is on my homepage. And what it is a one-sheet planning guide to help you decide where do you want to be in 90 days, essentially step-by-step plan to get you there, what's going to keep you motivated and what's going to keep you focused. And with that comes some instructions with a video and or in print that you can look for that also have tips to help you be more successful.
Oh, I love it.
So.
Fantastic. Free stuff's always good. Well, and for me, the idea of handing something out for free, if you put your effort in and you do the work, you're going to see the results and you're
Yes.
going to want more. And that's when we come into play. You know, if you're really driving with Linda Ann, sorry, you're really driving with Linda Ann, you go and you work with her, give her a call or email her or take her program or, you know, like just follow her and just do it until you get to a place that, you know, you feel amazing. And then there might be something else after that. You never know. So thank you so much for being here. Is there any last words, last little tips of advice that you might want to say?
Just believe in yourself. Just to believe in yourself. And it's sometimes it's really hard to do, but that really is the core of authenticity, of success, and being able to move forward with your life and create a healthy life.
Yeah. Belief is, and inside the word belief, it's the feeling. You got to feel what you believe. Like,
Yes.
remember when we believed in Santa Claus and what feeling that brought? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such an honor, and I love it.
Thank you for having me. It was such an honor, such a delight to be here. Thank you.
Oh, and to you, audience, I want to thank you for your commitment on your journey and your adventure. And I hope that you put all this stuff to work, all these strategies, and come into the group and post. What difference has that made for you? So thank you again. And to you, audience, I will see you in the next video. What am I doing? Haha. Oh no, I can't stop it. I'm sorry. Okay, now I actually mean it. I'm going to say goodbye now. Love you all.